Landscape photography is a powerful way to connect with nature, a reminder of how small we are in the vast world around us. When it comes to landscape photography in Australia, there's arguably no better place than the iconic Great Ocean Road and Otways. A Photographer's Guide to the Great Ocean Road and Otways by Samantha Olsen is a book that provides everything you need to know about 152 different shoot locations, from the best times of day to visit, the ideal seasons, tide heights, drone regulations, even whether you can bring your dog. It's your ultimate guide to photographing the Great Ocean Road and Otways safely and creatively. 4 years of research went into this book, uncovering hidden locations and determining the best and safest times to visit each one. Those of you with limited time, this book will help you make the most of every moment you have. Whether you shoot with a DSLR or mirrorless camera, or if you're planning to visit the Great Ocean Road or Otways, this book can be your essential companion. Here's what you'll find inside: 152 shoot locations, a location breakdown separated into accommodation areas for easy planning, skills for great landscape images focused on seascapes and waterfalls, weather and tidal information. With 750 pages of information and over 1,000 full-colour images and diagrams, this book is a treasure trove of knowledge. This how-to photography guide, combined with a travel guide, all in one beautifully crafted book, gives you everything you need so you don't waste a moment of your trip. So, don't miss out. Visit Kickstarter.com and search for Great Ocean Road book to get your copy today. Choose a package that includes a physical hardcover book to enjoy all the beautiful images, plus an ebook so you can take this guide with you wherever you go. Get ready to discover the Great Ocean Road like never before. Hello and welcome to Landscape Photography World, a podcast for everyone passionate about landscape photography. I'm Grant Swinburne and I'll be your host on this show, talking to landscape photographers about their motivations, likes and dislikes. Patricia Davidson, an accomplished landscape and nature photographer, shares how 2 decades on the Oregon coast has shaped her artistic vision. From capturing the moody forests of the Pacific Northwest to an epic 4-year RV journey across the American West, Patricia's work reflects a deep connection to nature. She discusses the importance of setting creative goals, overcoming injuries, and drawing inspiration from various art forms. Patricia also shares memorable travel experiences, including photographing the landscapes of England and Wales, and highlights her philosophy on responsible photography. Through her insights, Patricia offers valuable lessons on artistic growth, perseverance, and the profound relationship between photography and nature. I hope you enjoy the show. G'day, Patricia. Welcome to Landscape Photography World. How are you going?
Thanks for having me, Grant. I'm doing good.
Excellent, excellent. Why don't we start with who Patricia Davidson is and why is she a landscape photographer?
Oh, good question. So I've been doing photography. It's been important most of my life, but just really didn't have the gear or anything until 2008. And once I got the gear, instead of a point and shoot, it was like addiction. I lived at the time on the Southern Oregon coast.
Okay.
So I've lived there for over 20 years. I no longer live there. But that's where I just, it was so beautiful. I was just always running out to the beaches. And then on the weekends, I had a full-time job as a web developer, and I would run out to the Columbia River Gorge or
Okay.
forest in the Pacific Northwest and photograph waterfalls. Flowing water has always been my favorite thing to photograph, although lately it seems like trees and fog I really enjoy. But that's how I got my start.
And what do you think's really influenced your photography more than anything else? Is it a person? Is it a place?
Oh gosh, lots of people have influenced me. I've been lucky enough to know a lot of photographers over
Mhm.
the years and be able to shoot with many that are pretty good photographers, probably many. And just, I guess the biggest influence has just been nature. I'm just love being outdoors. I love to hike. My
Oh.
husband loves to hike with me, so we're out doing that quite a bit.
And in terms of inspiration, nature's obviously a big part of it. Is there something more than just a pretty scene? What is it that sort of makes you want to create art? I guess is the real question is where did you, okay, I'm documenting where I am, but now, okay, I'm looking at it a little bit differently. I'm now trying to create a piece of art.
Yeah, in those early years, I think I'll explain one of the things. I took a course at a community college, the
So,
one that I started working at years later, but I took a course on photographing like waterfalls because that was my biggest frustration. I didn't know how to photograph the waterfalls, how to capture flowing water and stuff like that. So I took this class, was it just a community ed kind of class? And once I took the class and I learned how it was like, I was just really inspired, especially because where I lived, I could go
so,
anywhere and find waterfalls or beaches. So, yeah, I was really inspired by probably learning it from different people and also from the web. I'm just
hmm.
looking to see how can I do that? How can I get the water to look like that?
Yeah, sure. Do you set yourself creative goals, or are you more one to just go out into the landscape and just shoot what inspires you when you find it?
It's been interesting over the years because I have had goals. Like, I got to learn to do waterfalls. I got to learn to do night sky. And the funny thing about night sky is I don't even do it. I learned how and I did it for a bit. And then it doesn't seem to interest me right now. I don't know why,
Oh,
but being out late at night in the cold, I don't know. Maybe that's it. But I have had goals over the years. And right now, I've had a really interesting year last year. I broke my arm.
oh wow.
Yeah, in November. And so I was right at the fall peak season. So I didn't get out at all.
Wow.
And there was a couple times I got out with the early fall stuff, but it happened. It wasn't like I was hiking on a trail. People ask me, how did you do it? Were you out hiking on a trail or how did you do it? And no, it was just a silly fall at home and I just broke my arm. It was like pretty dramatic for me but I've been dealing with that for the last couple of months and
Yeah.
I'm still recovering. I don't have full use of it was fortunately not my dominant hand,
Okay.
but I still can't like clench my fists, things like that, but I'm starting to be able to do a lot more with it. And so there was this period the last few months. And the funny thing is, just right before that, I was in one of those funks where you just didn't feel very inspired.
Yep. Yep.
So this kind of happened right about then. So it's been interesting.
Okay. And so have you been out shooting since the break? No, wow.
I'm about ready to get out there though.
I can
Um,
imagine.
yeah. So it was painful and they don't put you in a cast anymore.
Oh, okay.
Only a short time, a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And
Okay.
then I had to have surgery. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that
I
would
could,
take it out of you. Yeah.
yeah. But just right about this time when I'm dealing with downtime, I started dabbling in other art. Water painting, I already started doing embroidery last year, just some handcrafted kind of stuff, but the watercolor is the only thing I could do when I couldn't move my hand.
Sure, sure.
So I feel totally inspired now. I don't know. I just anxious to get out there. So I'm planning some trips and hopefully some day trips soon too.
Awesome. Yeah. So what's first on the agenda?
Well, in March, mid-March, I'm going to Utah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
pretty
Cool.
excited about that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I can imagine. It's one place I've been to Utah once, but it was a business trip, and the photography I did was stuff around Salt Lake City, not so much getting out to some of the beautiful desert areas out there. And it's somewhere that I'd love to go and spend some time. I think it'd be
Oh,
absolutely marvelous.
you'd love it.
Mm.
It's just amazing. That's one of my favorite States, Utah. Haven't been there in about, oh gosh, actually 2 years ago I was there.
Okay.
I was at a conference speaking, and I just put 10 days in my schedule. And after the 3-day conference, I just spent some time on my own in
Awesome.
Utah.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, awesome.
How do you think your personal experiences or emotions have influenced the landscapes that you are choosing to shoot?
I guess for me, because I feel calm when I'm out in nature, that sort of reflects in the work I do. There's sometimes living on the Oregon coast, we had dramatic storms during the winter.
For
So
sure.
when I'm out in nature, I feel calm, and it's just I feel good, like the tensions of everything is gone. So
Mhm.
I think that reflects a lot in my nature photography. When I was learning living on the Oregon coast, we had those major storms. I think you've seen the really big waves that would hit some of those places on the southern Oregon coast. You've seen
Yeah, I've
lots of pictures probably of those.
seen quite a few shots of that from not just yourself, but quite a few other people. Yeah.
Yeah. And anyways, I was really always watching for storms, and I'd run out there, and I really enjoyed that. I haven't A lot of those I'm taking off my portfolio because they're just so old. So I'm
Sure.
hoping that now that I'm stable, I guess I should have said I traveled for 5 years with my husband in an RV.
Okay.
So
Yep.
that's why I moved off the Oregon coast. But anyways, and when we settled after almost 5 years on the road, we settled here because I have kids in the area.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, I just really want to spend some time down there, and during the winter. It's too late. Probably now we won't have too much left, but
Yeah.
maybe a couple of months. But maybe next year, and just get more in my portfolio because I love photographing those giant storms. It's
Mm.
just incredible.
Yeah. No, the impact of the ocean is just amazing.
Ah,
I can never get enough of it personally.
yeah, I love it.
Uh,
So.
how do you connect with a place before you photograph it? Are you more instinctive and wait until you get there? Do you do a lot of research beforehand? How do you make your mind up about
Yeah.
where to go and stand?
I do a little bit of research. Obviously, it's needed, especially if you're going out of the area. But I'm not one of those. When my husband and I lived on the road, and I just thought, okay, I quit my job as a web developer, and now I have time just to do photography.
Nice.
And we did plan where we were going to go and everything. But there were days that I just, okay, we're staying here because it's so beautiful, and I want to get the right light. So I'm going to stay as long as I can to get that light. I I'll bend and I'll change for whatever situation.
Is there a specific landscape or a location that you keep returning to? And if so, why does it hold so much meaning for you?
There's many places across the Pacific Northwest I keep going to because it's just different every time. One of the places I like is Mount Rainier in the summer. It's just trying to get the wildflowers, and I haven't had a couple the last couple of years haven't been too good with wildflowers, but keep trying, and it's just beautiful to be there and to hike the trails there. So places like that. And then of course the Southern Oregon coast is my favorite, like Bandon. You'll see a lot of that in my portfolio because I lived down there. And yeah, I just there's just so many places I do return to every year.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned that when you were traveling, you might stay in a place to get the right light. Do you think it's important to keep returning to places so that you do get the conditions you're looking for?
I think so. I know a lot of people will replace skies and do all this, but I'm not into that. I'd rather return and get the light because it just when you get the light that you anticipated, it just makes me feel great, and I'm excited. So I just want to return again and again until I get it.
Yeah, sure. What about once you've actually nailed it and you've got the light and everything? Is that it? Done and dusted, never go back?
Sometimes it just depends where it is. Like I said, there are some places around the Pacific Northwest are little day trip for me that I just like to return to every year.
Yeah, yeah. I can be like that with specific locations. There's a couple of places where I've got to, and the sky has just gone completely amazing, and the light is fantastic, and I think I'm never going to do better than that. So I tend not to go back to that specific spot again for a while.
Yeah, I guess there is a place like the Painted Hills here in Oregon. I've gone there several times and I felt like I was there last year and I felt that's it, I'm done. There's other places I could be. And it's
Yeah.
that way with the Palouse too, that in
Okay.
Washington State. I've been there several times and the last time I went was 2 years ago and I had the most incredible light. It was amazing. And now I feel like, okay, that'll do me good for a while. Because I came back with lots of photos and I felt, okay, I'm not gonna, it is a ways for me to go over there,
Yeah, yeah.
but it was it was a good year, so I don't think I'll go for a while. I'll do
No,
something
I
new.
get that. So what about pre-visualization? Do you have a an object in mind or a particular set of circumstances in mind before you go out and shoot, or are you more reactive to what's going on when you get there?
Yeah, both ways. I guess I react. I like to watch the weather and say, okay, it maybe if I go during this time, I'll have a chance of something good. Summertime is really hard for me. I don't, it's good for the mountain areas around the Pacific Northwest because you can get clouds and stuff like that. But locally, it's a little more difficult. You really have to plan, watch the weather, plan, and then go.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Have you got a favorite time of year that you like to shoot?
When I used to live on the Oregon coast, I loved winter. Just more dramatic, and the light was so much more brilliant. A little more difficult now, but I do like spring. Spring is probably my favorite. And fall. I guess spring and fall.
All year round bar summer.
Yeah. And the mountains in the summer.
I'm interested in how photographers use the environment and the natural elements to create something that's a bit unique and unexpected. Is there a time when you've actually out there and gone, okay, yes, this is it. I've nailed what I was looking for here.
I guess sometimes doing abstracts, I do enjoy that. I see it, especially like fall. I've done some with trees and stuff like that. That's really fun, or with the water. But I think I do. I've said, okay, this is what I'm going to do at this particular time. And there's been other times where it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this creative thing because the circumstances are right. So I guess it just depends.
Yeah. I guess it's always difficult if you're at a honeypot location to find something that's a bit unique. Is there
Mhm.
something that you're trying to do in terms of if let's say you go to Utah, right? There's a few spots there where everybody goes and stands, and I know there's a few spots there that you've got to line up. You get your park ticket,
Yeah,
you've got to go and line up. Everybody puts their tripod in the same spot, takes the same shot, and then moves on. How do you
it's true.
how do you get something that's unique in a place like that?
It's difficult. You just have to look for it, I think. I've been more, I guess over the years I've wanted those and I have a lot of that in my portfolio, the favorite spot. The last couple of years I've been wanting to do more unique, like with the fog and using a longer lens to get to zoom in on a unique scene that's not the overall grand landscape. But there's a favorite spot here in the Pacific Northwest where you go for Mount Hood. You can get fog, you have the river down below, and everybody goes there. And those pictures sell for me, so I still like to take those pictures. But it's fun to get out the longer lens and try to get those intimate landscapes.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a really good tip for people that are trying to shape their style. Is that long lens makes a massive difference
Oh
to
gosh.
how you
Yeah.
frame up parts of the landscape as opposed to, as you say, to the grand landscape.
Yeah, and there was a couple of years ago I went to Crater Lake in
Yep.
Oregon. And there's a a viewpoint. There's several viewpoints, but it's everybody gets the same postcard picture.
Yep.
And so I was really determined I'm not going to get that picture. I did take it because I did use it in a talk, but I wanted to show the difference of changing your lens, how I used the wide angle at first. And then I said, okay, to get the unique viewpoint, I had to use the longer lens. And I noticed at this particular time that the clouds were just like floating over the water, and it was just a mere reflection. It was
Mm.
super calm. There's this little island out there. And so I was waiting until the clouds just came in just right. It was funny because there were these teenagers that were doing their selfies and stuff, and they were like, "What are you doing?" And I said, I'm just waiting for the clouds to get in the right position with the reflection. And I said, do you see it now? And they were like, oh my gosh. And so they get out their little cameras, they start taking pictures of it. But
Awesome.
but anyways, things like that, I felt really proud that I came away from there with something more unique than just
Yeah.
the typical shot.
Yeah. I think it makes a massive difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you challenge yourself to think outside the box and experiment with new ideas or new approaches in your photography?
I think just playing around and just looking to see what other people are doing, learning from other people. I still am always learning because there's a lot to learn. But I don't want to copy anymore
Mhm.
or like I did when I was just into photography. I just want to do more unique stuff. But I have this side of me where I like to do more unique stuff, but then, okay, the stuff that sells on my website is those iconic shots. So I still have to have this balance where I'm taking those shots because people want them, people buy them,
Yeah.
and then I'm doing something I'm more interested in or proud of.
Yeah. It's strange how certain sort of styles sell better than others, and yet you feel more creatively fulfilled by the ones that may not necessarily be so popular.
Yeah. Yeah, and last year, girlfriend and I, she's a photographer too, and we planned a 15-day trip to England
Okay.
and the UK. We went to Wales too while we were there, but she's a real planner, so she did a lot of planning. And she also does wildlife, which I don't do a lot of wildlife. If it's there, I'll take pictures, but I don't plan it. But anyways, we were trying to go for photographing the wild garlic and the bluebells, and we hit it just right. It was
Nice.
amazing. But
Yeah.
it was such an inspiring trip because it was a different landscape than what I was used to. It was a different forest style than what I was used
Yeah.
to. And so everything just really inspired me. I think that's why when I came home, I was a little let down because I was like, we were on a high. Every day we were like from morning to night. And sometimes we didn't even stay in the same hotel. But one night we were just there was only a couple of days that we were in a hotel more than one day, just
Yeah.
2 nights instead of one night or something. So
Yeah.
we saw a lot and we just drove all over the country.
Wow.
It was amazing.
The thing that amazes me when I'm over there, my wife's from the UK, so we have travelled there several times, and we pick a spot, and we might go and spend a week or a long weekend there, and spend some time. But the people over there kind of get blown away when you say, oh, I've driven to for what would be me a 3 hour drive is yeah that's fairly average. It takes me
Yeah.
an hour to get from where I live to the beach. And they kind of get freaked out. What do you mean you did that as a day trip?
Yeah, exactly. But it's so incredible to get a different taste of the landscape, to see
Yeah,
something
makes a
unique
difference.
and new. Yeah, it just felt magical.
I, I think what you were saying earlier about how it affects your creativity, you do actually think a little bit. Yeah, you're forced to think a little bit differently because the, as you say, the forest is a bit different, the landscape's different, the water might move slightly differently depending on where you are.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to more trips like that.
Yeah. Awesome.
I haven't done that was my first international trip.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
When you said you went to Wales, whereabouts in Wales did you get to?
Just, oh gosh, butter or something. I don't remember. Excuse me.
That's okay.
The, oh gosh, I'd have to look at my metadata. I did keep a little journal and
Uh-huh.
everything I wrote down so that I could put it when I was in Lightroom and get it all straight. But it was just a little tip of it. One of the disappointing things about that part of the trip was there were so many waterfalls that we were going to see, and the roads were closed
Oh no.
into those. I don't know what was the deal, but all the roads were closed at that time.
Wow.
So we didn't see several that we had planned to see. So we had to make some changes. And
Yeah.
luckily, people over there were pretty nice whenever we ran into people, and they would give us ideas where to go,
Yeah.
which
They
was really great.
always get lots of local tips. Yeah.
People were pretty good about that.
Yeah. I love the north of Wales. The south of Wales is marvellous. Absolutely nothing against it. There's some fantastic spots there too. But the north of Wales around Snowdonia and that and the old slate mines and
Yes.
so forth.
Snowdonia, we did go there.
Yeah. Uh,
That tree picture, the famous tree right there
okay, yeah.
behind
That's from up there.
me.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was, oh, Snowdonia. We had 2 nights, and I wished we had more time.
You'd
It
need
was,
months.
oh, yeah, it was incredible. I told my husband, that's if we go back there, we're going to Snowdonia and places around there.
Yeah.
Pretty,
You could easily spend a week and not cover even a third of it.
yeah, yeah, pretty neat. It's beautiful.
How would you define success in your photography?
Oh gosh. I think when you're happy with what you're doing and you love it and you're not bored with it. And just like I said a while back when I was telling you I got a little uninspired, mainly just, I guess, during the summertime. And then this happened to me with my broken arm and the art, just bringing more art into your life. You're creative as a photographer, but when you feel like you're in a slump, try some different art because it can really inspire you.
Absolutely.
I feel like that is really my lesson this year that I learned, you know.
How do you think photography has helped you grow or change as a person?
It's just, I guess I'm more conscious of not leaving a trace in the landscape, but out in nature, being more careful when I'm out. And there was a time I felt like in the early days when I would be running around with different Pacific Northwest photographers and we might have trampled things. We
Oh,
weren't careful.
yeah.
And I guess it didn't take long where I was feeling like I just need to be more careful. I'm not going to trample on those wildflowers. I'm not going to. And I think that it's really important now because to be an example, we have so many of these people that are just wreaking havoc on the landscapes, and it's sad to see. There are places here in the Pacific Northwest where we used to see this beautiful mossy stuff growing on these little by waterfalls, and they're
Sure.
gone. It's gone.
Yeah. I think, yeah, it's one thing that has been I won't say a continual, but it's been brought up a number of times on the podcast by various photographers about the impact that foot traffic can have, being very careful about things like geotagging, letting people know where you actually got that shot.
Yeah.
And I think it does, there is a responsibility for us to actually do some education for people that might not be as educated about that sort of thing, and make sure that when they're out, they are leaving no trace. They're not trampling. They're not leaving all their rubbish and gear behind.
Yeah. And when my husband and I traveled full time and we would stay in these free campgrounds throughout the Southwest, oh
So,
gosh, we would have to clean up trash. It was just unreal what people would do.
yeah, I've seen tents left behind because a pole broke or something, and so they've just abandoned it.
Oh, it's crazy.
It wasn't like it was still staked and just collapsed. It would really just been bundled up and then just dumped on the ground. It was just ridiculous.
Crazy. I know. It's sad. And I've seen some recklessness while I've been out on the field. And
Yeah.
if you say anything, but you're a Karen is what they call you
Oh,
now,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's please.
I can be a Karen myself. I was at a park in a desert location, and it was up on top of this hill for a sunset. And there's quite a few other people up there. And there was this young teenager who was picking up rocks and stacking them and occasionally knocking them over and watching them tumble down the hill. And it's, come on, you know.
Uh,
So I had a
yeah.
word. I
Oh,
probably
yeah.
called a Karen. I don't
It's
care,
it's
but
just
it's
it's
just,
instantaneously. I mean, comes out
yeah.
of me. I just can't help it.
No, I'm the
I've
same.
seen. I saw two guys that were doing golf balls, hitting golf balls into this protected painted hills, where you're not even allowed to walk on those painted hills
Yeah.
because it will ruin them. And they were shooting golf balls into it. And when we said something, my husband and I, at first, when we saw it, we just said, no. That was first reaction.
Yeah.
And then I said, this is protected land.
Yeah.
And one of the guys just got like this and started walking toward us. So we had to get out of there. It
No way.
was just like, ah, people.
Yes. It just astounds me that people don't actually have their thinking brains in when they wander around in the world. It just astounds me.
Yeah, I know.
So you gave up being a web developer. Was that
Mhm.
specifically to become a photographer? And is that what that was about? And if so, what was that decision-making process? Oh, fairly easy. Pack in the work and off we go.
It was pretty much I'd already had a side business with my photography.
Yeah.
Already was selling things in galleries on the Oregon coast and making money. And it was a side hustle, still doing web development at a community college.
Yeah.
And my husband, he retired. He had worked at his job like 32 years, so he was able to retire pretty early. And so when he retired, he was out every day hiking. He'd send me pictures. Oh, look at that. Look at this scene and all this. And it's, I want to be out there. I want to
Oh,
do that. And so we made a plan and I quit my job and I'm retired now. I could finally retire and get my pension, but I couldn't at the time. And so we just bought an RV and we hit the road, sold everything. So it was pretty fun until it wasn't.
okay.
It was a lot of maintenance on an RV because they're not meant to live in them. And we would take them out, this big 32-foot RV, we would take it out on these washboardy roads at these BLM campgrounds and stuff.
Yep.
And it just, the slides would break and different things, and it just got expensive. And so
Yeah.
we said, let's
I'm
just get off
guilty.
the
Yeah.
road. And oh, I was just going to say, so we ended up settling and selling it.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife and I, a year or so ago, bought one, and so we're out and about as much as we possibly can be. We've spent the last few months at home because our eldest daughter's had our first grandchild, so we've been
Mhm.
helping out there rather than traveling around.
Yeah.
This year coming up, we've got a few trips planned, so looking forward to getting out and
Oh, yeah.
beating up the RV again.
How big is it?
It's 8 meters, so I think that's roughly 32 foot. So
A
it's
good
got all
size.
mod cons, bathroom, shower, toilet, and
Mhm.
the even got a washing machine in it. So it's
What we found is we towed our car when we did that.
yeah.
And even the car, we have this Honda CRV,
Hmm.
and we had broken the struts on it a couple of times because we would take them out like a Jeep roads. We should have rented Jeeps, but we didn't. So
Yeah.
it's expensive. But anyways, we decided that we would sell it and then we were going to get a van once we got home based.
Yep.
And then that was really when our economy, everything shot up and
Yeah.
COVID time and everything. And so now we're saving for something like that.
Yeah.
We'll
Nice.
see. But we really want to get a van and something smaller
Yeah.
because we found that we could get to more places and we don't need too much.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It is nice to have all the mod cons and have everything so that you can actually live in it for a bit. We tow a small four-wheel drive, the little Suzuki four-wheel drive, and that lets us go on the Jeep style roads. So,
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah,
and if we ever did get a van and we needed something like that to go, we would just rent something, I think.
yeah. Have you learnt from running your photography business?
Oh, it has ups and downs over the years. COVID was just actually good because people were in their offices and they were buying prints and stuff like that. It didn't really affect me because I don't do workshops.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, when I got off the road 2019, I thought, "Oh, I'm going to do some workshops, maybe Oregon coast and places like that around the Pacific Northwest. But I saw what happened to all those photographers that were depending on that income. And
Yeah,
I thought, I just don't need the stress at this point in my life. I don't need the money like a 30-year-old does to support a family. I have pensions. We have pensions and we don't need as much. So I just have never strayed from just selling the prints and getting income from different things, selling to medical centers, businesses, and doing talks here and there.
yeah,
So
no,
it works for me. And I like that because I have the freedom I can go whenever I want.
yeah, makes a real difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had a shoot where the journey or the experience was more meaningful than the actual photography?
Where, wait, what do you mean?
Where the photograph was nice and the photography was good, but the actual journey or the experience was actually.
Oh, yeah. A lot of times you don't come back with these award-winning pictures
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff. Journey. Exactly. And the experience and just being there is always good. And
Yeah.
that's what I tell people a lot is that, so what if you don't come back with the greatest photo ever? It's just, how did you feel while you were there? You know,
Yeah.
and usually there's usually not a time that I don't feel good when I'm out in nature and on a photo trip. I've enjoyed every single one usually.
Yeah. Was there any more notable than others?
Probably, I can't at the top of my head, but probably.
What about horror
Yeah.
stories? Have you had any close?
Horror stories.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, no, not really. I've been asked this before on a podcast, and
Okay.
I love to hear when people do have those kind of stories, but unfortunately, I don't have any of those great tales to tell. I have a friend that every time for a while she was going out, she would run into naked men just out in nature, and she was going to write a book or so. I said, or maybe I told her that you should write a book, but no, or yeah, my friend also had a great story about snakes, how snakes appeared on her trail all over the place.
Wow.
Nothing like that has really happened to me.
I've been
So,
fairly lucky with snakes. We've seen a few out in the wild, but I've actually seen more in the suburbs of Sydney than I have out out in the bush.
yeah, I don't know. And really, the bear stories and stuff like that, the bears usually just run off around here.
Nice.
So, scary
What's
bear
good?
stories. I prefer no scary bear stories.
Yeah, I'm with you there. How do you think landscape photography shaped your relationship with the natural world?
Like I said earlier, I think it just made me more aware of not leaving my footprint and just being a good role model out in nature and not destroying things.
Mm.
But I think that's the main thing. And I think anybody that would go out in nature and just take a hike and it changes your whole mood and everything. So
Absolutely.
I think I know so many photographers that are just really chill people. And it's because we're out in nature a lot. We don't let things get to us. And if we do have problems and stuff, that's the best place to go. Go to the beach, stand there and listen to the ocean. It does a lot for our mood.
Absolutely. I think it's very therapeutic. There's been many people on the podcast have actually expressed how it's even right to the point of saving their life. And yeah,
Wow.
it just amazes me that more people don't do it than.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you prefer being out alone or with other people?
It just depends. When I lived on the Oregon coast, I often would go alone because I was familiar with the area. But it's nice to have a buddy with you, and there's no shortage of buddies. And then a lot of times, like I said, my husband will go with me, and because
Oh,
he's a big hiker, he'll do backpacking, and we both enjoy it and something we like to do together.
nice.
But I have some ma- many friends where I could just call up and say, "Hey, let's go out and do this," and
Yeah, awesome.
it's nice. I think it's a good safety thing to actually go with a buddy. I see lots of men doing it as well,
Yeah.
not just women.
Do you often bump into people that you know when you're out in the fields?
Yes, lots of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, happens a lot. Pacific Northwest, there's a lot of good photographers here.
Yeah, I guess there's, as we mentioned before, there's some locations where you're always going to bump into other photographers.
Even when I was traveling and we were in the Southwest,
Mm,
ran into people that you knew from the internet. It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
incredible. Always fun.
What's your editing process look like? Are you straight into it when you get home from a shoot, or do you let things wait around for a bit and wait until the excitement's ebbed and you can then sit down and take your time with it?
I try to take care of it right away. I did have a big backlog when I traveled full time because we were in that RV and every day was like an adventure. And it's just, I didn't want to sit in an RV and process photos. So I had this huge backlog. And
Yeah.
I promised myself I would never do that again
Okay.
because it just took forever. So I'm better about it. But I would say that, like when we went to England, there was a lot of photos to go through, and I was excited because I knew I had some good shots.
Yeah.
And so when you know you have some good shots, I tend to get to them right away
Sure.
and take care of them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm a bit the same. I'm happy to dip into the archive, but I'm always more excited when I get home to get in and start editing. There are times when that doesn't happen or can't happen, but yeah, it's interesting listening to different people and different ways of actually doing it. I know some people that I've spoken to have still got years of backlog that they haven't even looked at. They've
oh
just.
yeah, I know someone like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I try to get it right away and not just like immediately, maybe within a day or two, but I don't always delete everything.
no,
I
nor do I.
know that I'll go back and I'll find a gem that I just overlooked the first
Yeah,
time. And that's what I'll go through. I'll pick out the ones I want to process, and then I'll just leave it and I'll look at it later. And sometimes I go, wow, I can't believe I didn't see this one.
exactly. Yeah. And that's what I've got about 8 terabytes of images hanging around on hard drives, and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it can be a chore
Yeah.
going
And it,
sometimes. But as you say, you do find the odd gem, and you go, "Wow, I really should have looked at that one a little bit more closely."
yeah. Yeah. So it's usually, but I do like to get rid of things. I don't like to keep things that are, I know it's not going to happen. There's
Right.
nothing going to come out of this shot. But it's funny with the new noise AI stuff in
Yeah.
Photoshop and Lightroom and stuff. It's in Topaz. I use that sometimes
Mhm.
for the sharpening, or what's the other one? Oh, to enlarge photos,
Yeah.
pixel. And it's just amazing, the noise stuff. I found a photo the other day. I was just thinking about the Southwest because I'm going there. And I was going through this album and I saw this picture, and it's like with the noise before was just, but I really had a wonderful time there. I loved that
Yep.
being there. We were camping right across from this mountain range, and the light was so incredible, but the noise, I just couldn't get rid of it. So I kept it there and I was able to fix it basically
Yeah.
with the technology that we have today.
Yeah,
So,
I think that, and that was something that I learnt fairly early on with digital photography is shooting raw and keeping that raw, as technology progresses, you can always come back to those older images, take another look at
Mhm.
them. And yeah, okay, you can't fix a bad composition per se, but
Right.
you can certainly some of the technical issues that because you had an earlier sensor, a 2007 sensor is not the same as a 2025 sensor.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. We have better cameras now, and so my early cameras just smaller megapixels.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and the dynamic range on the newer cameras is so much
Oh,
better.
it's way better than it ever used to be. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you print much of your work?
I do. Like I said, I sell prints. For myself, I try to rotate a few things out. I get tired of looking at my own photos sometimes. And after a while, I'll switch it out.
Oh,
But I tend to have art around my house that is other artists. Um, don't like in here, I have some of my own art in my office
yeah.
here, but I just love looking at other people's art.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So yeah, I do try to print and I do cards too. I sell. And so I have a Epson SureColor P900
Mhm.
printer, and I could print up to 16 by 24 or 17 by, you could do some panos on it. But so I enjoy printing. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you enjoy the arcane process of playing around with print profiles and so forth, or are you a little bit
Yeah.
straightforward than that?
I do play around. And even if I have to send it out to a lab, it's a metal print, a canvas print or something, or a larger paper print,
Sure.
then I still print out samples that I know it's going to turn out okay.
Yeah. I think also
So,
selecting the right paper for the particular image can be really important. Some of those
mhm.
sort of darker forest ones don't do so well on the sort of fabric art paper, the matte papers. They do better in gloss or metallic, and vice versa. Some of the seascape stuff that works, depending on what it is, works better on one versus the other. And it's one thing I don't mind is actually playing around with different papers and the profiles around those and seeing how the paper itself actually impacts how the look of the print comes out.
Yeah, I enjoy that too. I've often order other papers in sample because the paper company I use will have samples and I'll
Yeah.
try them out. And so I have a few favorites that I tend to go with, and it just depends. I also have an Etsy shop besides my website. And so for Etsy, I do just like a luster print. I don't do any fancy papers because
Okay.
it's a different audience, I would
Sure.
say.
What do you see as his place in society?
Oh, it has a big place in society. I think it always has since it
Mhm.
began. And this day and age, so many people have their cameras because even our phones are cameras that are
Absolutely.
amazing now. I think it'll always have a place. AI is changing things up, but I think eventually people are going to get tired of those weird photos. Some of them are just, I can't believe what people are thinking is real, but
Yeah.
I think people might get tired of those, you know?
I I don't think certainly in the landscape genre, I just don't see it having it. It certainly can't replace the feeling as you've talked about, getting out into nature, sitting
Mhm.
at your keyboard, writing a few words, just is no comparison to getting out. And yes, okay, you can make a nice image out of it, but I just don't see it being anywhere near that experience of actually being out in the world and standing somewhere as the sun rises or sets or whatever, and
Yeah.
you're getting that light and capturing that moment. There's something I think there's a feeling I certainly get inside that is completely incomparable to sitting at the keyboard typing a few words. Yeah.
Exactly. And there's some beautiful stuff I've seen with AI. Those pictures are made up of other people's pictures. And I just can't get into that. I enjoy AI for cleaning up images, especially if you've got people in your shots. It
Yeah, if you want
used
to get
to
rid of
be,
the
It used to be harder and now it's so easy. But yeah, things like that I have no problem with. And if people want to say this is AI art, but the people that are saying this is real, this
Yeah,
is
I was there. Yeah,
no, I'm sorry. But photographers know what is real because we've been out there, we've experienced those moments and those scenes. But when you see these crazy things, it's okay. Whatever floats your boat. But I know that the people that buy prints are probably not going to buy those, I don't think, because they a lot of times people tell me, "Oh, I went to the Columbia River Gorge, I went to Multnomah Falls, and I saw the wildflowers in Rowena, and I just your picture reminded me of what I saw."
yeah, and that feeling of connection of place, I think,
Yeah,
is really why buying the print in the first place.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I'm
So
just not going to
I
get
don't,
by concoction. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know that those people will sell a lot of that stuff.
No,
It's just for show to get followers on your social media and stuff like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's disappointing that they're making money that way, maybe out of it, but yeah, it is what it is, and people are going to be people. So
Yeah. So, anyways, but for me, I'm just going to keep doing what I love to do, and that's going out, taking the pictures. If the light doesn't work out, I'm going to go again if I can and keep trying. I'm not going to put out something that I would have to make up some story about. Oh, it was amazing. And I
uh,
just replaced the sky. Now, to me, that just doesn't fulfill me as a photographer.
yeah, no, I get it. What's the best and or worst piece of advice anyone's given you?
Worse. Oh gosh. Oh gosh, I can't think of anything. What about you?
Me, I think the best piece of advice I ever got was actually when I was at school doing photography, and the teacher was talking about, particularly for composition, it's as much about what you leave out of the image as what you include. And that has stuck with me right from when I understood what that meant in terms of looking at the edges of your image and working out, okay, if I, one way or another, I can actually exclude something that is either a distraction or is maybe the resolution of the story that you're trying to tell, but what you want is actually to leave that resolution out and leave it to the viewer. And
Hmm.
so there's things that you can do simply by positioning your camera differently,
Oh
higher,
yeah.
left angling, and all those sorts of things that actually make a real difference to your composition. And those bits that you leave out can be just as important as the ones that you include.
It's true. And just you saying that reminds me that I did hear a photographer early on. He would say, "Oh, I just can't stand it when things are like on the edge, like you cut something off,
Yeah,
like you cut off a seascape, a mountain, or a sea stack, or something like that." And so over the years, early on, that just drove me crazy that I
yeah,
would see anything like that. And so I really try to include it all or not at all,
no,
because to me it's taking your eye over to the side of the picture instead of where it should be. And so that's a really important thing. And there are things that due to distractions, what I call distractions, that bother me. And if I can't get rid of it with a crop or just an editing, just get rid of it. A
yeah.
plant sticking out, I will get rid of it because I don't like distractions. Yeah, that was probably good advice. I don't know that. Oh, I think a lot of photographers, especially when they get really popular, they'll just look down at people that are taking iconic shots. I've seen that
Yeah,
a lot. And I tell people, if you want to get the iconic shot, go get it. Because
absolutely.
when you're starting out in photography, that's the easiest thing to do and where you can get some good practice. It's really hard for a beginning photographer, unless they're a creative person already, to really know how to get creative with their photography. And so, what is wrong with practicing on iconic locations or
If you look at the art world, particularly even going back into the Renaissance, painters always had students or people working in their workshops who would either work on that particular image. I mean, the Mona Lisa is potentially not all Leonardo da Vinci's work. I know that might
right?
frighten some people. There's actually another version of the Mona Lisa which was done completely by one of his students, which
Oh,
if you actually look at them side by side, might actually say that one actually looks a little bit better than Leonardo.
yeah,
But
yeah.
so for me, that mimicry or the copying is a part of learning. If you're
Mhm.
not taking some of those iconic shots or you're not going to those locations and capturing your version of it, there's absolutely nothing wrong in that.
No,
Go for it because it will
yeah,
help you. I think it will actually help you learn photography and the lighting conditions, if it's mountains, the snow or the trees or whatever, they may be different in different times of
you're
the
right.
year to year. Your shot is your shot. And
Yeah, and I think once you get that experience and then you're training your eye
exactly.
and you start to see those unique perspectives that you didn't see before when you were starting out. The repetition of going out to iconic places. A lot of people, especially like here in the Pacific Northwest, I do not shoot on the weekends. I just don't because
Well,
you'll find all the people that are working are out on the weekends.
yep.
And so some of the trails can get crowded and stuff like that. So I'll go out during the weekdays and to avoid all that. But when somebody has a 9 to 5 job and that's the only time they have.
Exactly.
And so they'll go out on the weekend and the more practice you have and going out and shooting, the more you're training your eye to be more creative. That's the way I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't disagree with you there. I'm going to have to wrap up shortly. I've only got a couple questions left for you. Are there any photographers that you think I should be talking to on the podcast?
Oh, I don't I should have looked at your list to see how many of my friends have been interviewed by them.
Probably a few, but
Probably a few. Sure, there's plenty of good photographers around here. Let's see. Have you photographed Sean Bagshaw?
no.
He's a good Oh, he's
Oh,
great.
sorry, Sean Bagshaw. Yes, I have.
Oh, yeah, probably. Any of those people. I have a friend, Patricia Thomas. Her name is Patricia as well. That's the
Okay,
one I went to England with. She's
right.
about ready to retire from her job and
Mhm.
go full time. And she's a great person. She does wildlife and landscape photography.
Awesome.
And she's had some interesting stories, so you might enjoy that. Then, have you done TJ Thorne?
I have, yeah.
See, I'll probably list all these people that you've already done. Yeah, I'm sure. I'll try to think. I'll look at your website. I'll email you
Yeah, that'd be
and
great.
see if there's somebody that I could recommend that you haven't yet.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Patricia. I've got one more question, and for many people, it's the most important question that I ask. But do you like pineapple on pizza?
I do. Is that your favorite pizza?
No, not really. I'm fairly neutral, and if it's on the pizza, I'll eat it. If it's not on the pizza, then that's okay too. I don't order it normally, but if it's there, it'll get eaten.
I typically order just a veggie pizza.
Okay, yeah.
So,
I like a good vegetarian pizza. Thank you so much for taking some time today with us, Patricia. It's been really wonderful getting to know you. Where can people find your work?
just Patricia Com. You can go find me on Instagram and now Blue Sky. Just starting out there, a couple weeks, I guess I've been there. Instagram, all that under P. Davidson Photo.
Okay, fantastic.
Facebook as well.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Patricia.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's fun.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks again for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show and keep listening because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work in this podcast at gruntswinburnephotography.com along with prints and photography gear. I'm also on Vero, YouTube, Instagram and Facebook and now Photo. Also, blue sky. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Grant Swinburne. Hope to see you out shooting soon.